Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to join us for another installation of the WhyteSpyder webinar series. Today's topic is programmatic advertising, and that might be a new term to some of you. It definitely was to me a couple months ago. Luckily, I have experts at my disposal that are going to help me and help us and help all of you understand a little bit more about what this means, what it means to Walmart, how the trade desk is involved, what DSP stands for, but more importantly, how you can use this as a weapon in your arsenal to grow your business on Walmart, to gain category share from your competition, and to achieve your business goals. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Really excited to get into the content. By means of introduction, my name is Monigan. I'm the Vice President of Insights and Strategy here at WhyteSpyder. And joining me today are Gustavo Moller and Ben Woodruff. And gentlemen, please go ahead and introduce yourselves to the audience.
Yeah, Ben can go first.
Okay, hi, Ben Woodruff. I'm the EVP of Sales here at WhyteSpyder. Super excited for us to kind of talk about DSP, what it is, how we do it, and also how we enable our customers to win better online at Walmart. So I'm really excited about today. Thank you again for your time. Gustavo, over to you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Gustavo. I'm the programmatic consultant at Perpetua. I have over 5 years experience in digital, mainly on programmatic, and I'm here to just make sure like both WhyteSpyder, Perpetua, and our clients can succeed on DSP, or in this case, Walmart DSP. So before we get to like the very cool thing, that's what the Walmart DSP has to offer. I want to explain a little bit what programmatic is and how we buy. And then I'm going to get to the cool stuff that Walmart DSP. So what is programmatic? Basically, it's an auction-based environment where there's usually three parties. There is your DSP, your SSP, and your publisher. We're going to go over all those key players as we go in the next couple of slides, but I want to make sure that everyone understands that usually it's a three-player situation where one is doing the buying and one's doing auction and one's doing the selling process.
Gus, for people new to this process like myself, can you explain what those acronyms mean?
Yes, it's going to be in the next slide. So the next couple slides are going to be full in depth on what they do and everything like that. So what is the process? So DSP is a demand side platform. They are the guy responsible for looking the right person. Like myself or my team would input the KPIs your client has, your data, who you're trying to achieve. Is that an outdoor person? Is that someone that's like stay at home, someone that's looking for winter tires? Can be any kind of data. We input a creative, and then we add any advertised requirements. After all of that's bundled into the DSP, that's sent over to SSP. SSP is the supply side platform. They basically own the relationship with all the publishers. Like there's little snippets on every single site they have connectors, they have a connection with. And then whenever the DSP sends information, the SSP is going to look for the information on the site, on the publisher site. So for example, if we're looking for, again, winter tires from someone that's from New York at 11 a.m., the supply side is going to get all that information from DSP and look for a site that matches those requirements. The publisher website is that one that owns the relationship. Like they own the relationship between the customer, aka whoever is browsing the website, and the site itself. These ones are more self-explanatory, but it's important to know each element, because when we're talking about reach out premium publishers or things like that, if you don't have enough scale, we cannot reach them. So for today, if you understand DSP is the one that's looking for the right person, the SSP is going to facilitate the process, and the publisher owns that relationship with the end user, you pretty much all set in terms of like basic understanding of DSP. And why I mention all of that? Because when we get into some of you folks be comfortable with like search and grid on site, and it's a little bit different. Usually when you do on site, it's a keyword based, something like that. When you get into programmatic, we go into data based auction, which is good in a sense. We have a higher reach. We're no longer just looking or bidding against people that are looking for coffee right now, we're looking for people that has shown interest or is going to buy coffee in the past or going to buy in the future. So now that we are our level set, I can get into the cool stuff. That's the Walmart DSP. But just a little bit before that, what is the trade desk and why that's a big thing that Walmart partnered with them? Trade desk is basically one of our biggest players in the industry, programmatic industry. They pride themselves in being agnostic. They're not like Google, Amazon, or other partners we work with where they are a walled garden. Trade desk is like, hey, if you wanna advertise on the online space, we are here for you. We're gonna make sure like our tech is the best tech possible. And because of how they pride themselves in that tech, was a good fit for Walmart because they don't need to build things from scratch. They know the tech's reliable, and then boom, that magic happened. We have a massive partnership where the Walmart bring all that retail data and insights, and Trade Desk will supplement with the data. So the way it works is the capabilities we have, it's very, very good. Before, we would be limited to in-grid or some base on-site. Now that you are tapping into the DSP, well, you can do display, you can do video, you can do audio, you can do even other medium, like you can do Connect TV. Of course, data may be not a lot of match rate, but you are no longer limited to one medium. You can test and explore. Another benefit is Trade Desk will give you ability to optimize towards multiple KPIs at once. Let's say I'm selling this bottle, and I want to keep a ROAS of $2 and a CPA of $10. Well, that's possible. Trade Desk will optimize towards my ROAS and also trying to keep in mind my CPA. The last two things have been about what Trade Desk brings to the table. Now, let me tell you what Walmart brings to the table. Because it's Walmart data and how Walmart collects data at household level, we can now see how people are taking action. Are they buying through pickup? Are they buying in-store? Is that delivery? And all of that is available at no cost. As long as you're running a campaign in Trade Desk and you have your items properly listed, we can give you that feedback back to you. And why that's important, at least for me, is if you are looking to explore your media, like, hey, should I be expanding my digital footprint or my traditional footprint? By knowing how your users are consuming, now you have more data to support, to back it up your rationale. And the last thing is, as of right now, the Walmart DSP has more data sets that are available in DSS, that's display self-serve, aka the on-site environment. So as you can see at very, very high level, there's a lot of key benefits for the Walmart DSP that maybe is aside from just like being efficient. Like you can be efficient and also bring some cool insights that will make things better for your decision making. So talking about decision making, when you think about the DSP and how you should approach, don't look at your neighbor, look at your own brand. Like, what's my objective and what media should I be using for that? Is that like a short-term goal? It's a long-term goal? Should it be ROAS? Should it be more upper funnel? How should I evaluate that? How is my user consuming my data? How's like my loyalists consuming my brand? Are they doing that through video? Are they audio-based? Like, understanding how they consume your brand will help a long way. And finally, for me, like digital 5 years ago was one thing, today's a different thing. A month and a half from now is going to be different. So whenever you're approaching DSP, honestly, just keep a very open mind, accept there's times you want to try some stuff and there is no things wrong about it. Testing in the DSP digital space, it's one of the big things you can do because the feedback is right away. If I add an audience or I change my audience, can I see the impact right away? Yes. It may take a couple of days to make sure like there's enough data to back you up, but you have enough data to make decisions. So programmatic can be very dry, very like not as appealing as maybe doing some creative stuff. But one thing I keep in mind whenever I do my work is like Liquid Death. They are basically a US company. They started in 2019 out of nothing. They had nothing. All they sold is canned water. As of January of 2022, they're worth $500 million. All they did is just found creative ways to make canned water look appealing. I know that's more creative, but I want everyone to like think the same way about programmatic or any execution. Like it could be boring, could be dry, could be just water, canned water, but it's how we do that. It's the tools we use, is like the strategy behind it, how we can make that exceptional. There is no, every client should be different. Everyone knows what they like, what they don't like. So being creative on how you approach your media plan and everything, it's a shorter way to success. So just recap, Walmart DSP, it's here for a long run. They have, as of last week, they added new features. They're going to keep evolving. They're going to keep adding. Walmart does want to make sure that initiative is strong and good. So because they understand a lot of customers, as we move to a cookieless data where like it's not as easy to reach people, having that retail data, it's very, very important and does yield strong results, especially if you're tying that with like your sponsor, your ingredient, with like all your other things. The more you see your programmatic as part of the bigger picture, the more success you're gonna find. And that's all I had to make sure like everyone, before you got like all the round table, all the questions, everyone understood a little bit of programmatic, how it works, and what the trade desk DSP has to offer. Yeah, that's all. Thank you, everyone.
I have tons of questions. Before I get to them, let me please solicit the audience for your questions, because if I'm sure you have more intelligent ones than I do, and we want to make sure that we're tailoring this specifically to our audience. So please use the chat to ask us your specific questions. We'll make sure they get integrated in the conversation. Gus, I just want to touch on something that you mentioned there. This is one piece of your Walmart ad strategy. I am not a classically trained marketer, but I do know that the funnel starts up here and kind of works its way down here. And at the top is basically unaided awareness, and at the bottom is conversion. And we at WhyteSpyder pride ourselves on being conversion driving experts. The search grid and the digital shelf is our expertise. That's our playground. You're telling me that you can use this DSP option to hit that upper funnel and then make the puzzle of your Walmart ad strategy more complete. Can you talk about that just a little bit and how it interacts with some of that on-site media and maybe makes that media more efficient?
Yeah, for sure. If there's two ways you can approach it, as some of you are familiar, just the shelf page. So like you can make sure like everyone's looking at all your products, like make DSP just very agnostic. Hey, here's our brand portfolio. Feel free to pick it. Or if you're launching new products, stuff like that, you want to get those key products, the key pages to go in. And how that works, like someone may not purchase from DSP. They may just take a quick glance, like, cool, good to know that this product exists.
Yeah.
But 2 days from now, they can buy in store. They can do search, or something that sometimes we forget, word of mouth. There's times like the old fashioned media is still there, it's still present, still strong. So like DSP is like, we can help your upper funnel, mid funnel, and lower funnel, but I would say like your DSP is like more upper and mid, because that's like you capture like the strugglers that are just surfing around, and then bring them to your search. That's more like ingredient, that's more like on the dot.
Right.
That does not say that DSP cannot bring conversions. Like DSP can
Of course.
bring conversions. However, I would say like understanding how the channel works is probably where you're going to find a big success. Like I personally believe we should, if you have a strategy, should be holistic. It's not like me trying to get money from search or search trying to get money from me. It's just like, how we know that the right amount is being spent on that media to get the outcome we want.
So different strategies complementing each other.
Yes.
Ben, I know you're big on that and efficiency and completing the puzzle, making sure we have to borrow one of your phrases, a cradle to grave solution for all of our clients. How have you seen this tactic complete that puzzle in recent history?
Well, it certainly provides a different level of flexibility, right? So while we're the experts in in-grid, we're also now the experts of offsite and driving traffic back to Walmart. And so this really creates this well-rounded media approach that I think can hit target audiences in different ways, different times. And so, the one thing that I feel is really compelling about what Gustavo, you're saying is, if somebody's out searching for a product, you use the bottle as an example, they don't convert. They put it in their digital cart and they don't convert. 3 days later, they may be ready to convert. Yeah. DSP is a way to put that item back in front of those individual buyers. And it also helps Walmart by driving traffic back into Walmart. And so I think, that coupled with the in-grid strategies we're able to deliver is really this really well-rounded media delivery that otherwise WhyteSpyder didn't have until, here in the last few months. And from our clients that are doing it, they've seen tremendous success results from not only that, but also you mentioned Gustavo DSS, the self-service side of display. Those three basically pillars around media and delivery are really strong. So Gustavo, I want to kind of flip maybe the question back to you that if I was an audience member, maybe I would have. What are some of those best practices that you would recommend somebody that's just starting DSP or wants to evaluate DSP? And then Ryan, maybe as a second part to that is, how with the relationship with WhyteSpyder and then with Gustavo and his team, how do we bring that to life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I have some people that in the attendees that I have spoken before because we are helping them to get. I usually take tell me about your business. Let's worry about KPIs, everything. Tell me about your business. What are you trying to achieve? I can get into costing everything after, but when I understand your business, then I can give you a plan. I usually some clients I work with, they like to have 80% on the upper funnel. This is I know my product's a long tail. It's not it's a bottle that takes 2 days to buy. It's something that takes time to buy it, or even they bought it and they want to make sure the brand is top of mind. So that's one approach. So that client we talk to them and manage how the allocation would work. Some other clients I want my ROAS. I know it's a short-term gain, but ROAS is what I need right now. So we say okay, if you're doing ROAS or CPA, we cannot have 100% because we need to get people going to your page, visiting your page. We need to make sure we're giving traffic to Walmart. That's either gonna help myself or gonna help Ryan's team. So understanding.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
No, keep going. You got it.
Understanding what you're trying to achieve and how we can help you. I would say that's the first step. Can I tell you, hey, 25% awareness, 25% consideration, 50% retargeting, 100%. Will that meet your goals? Maybe, maybe not. So I prefer to understand where you're coming from, your business needs, so I can give you the best plan. It may be 25, 25, 50, but at least we know it's a breakdown that will make to help us succeed in the future. So that would be my approach, not just for Walmart, but in general, because sometimes we are so laser focused on CPA, ROAS, metrics. Okay, but what's the long term? Let's nourishing those customers, our potential customers. Let's get them to understand our brand. So when they go to Walmart, even if it's organic, either online or in store, they at least know who the brand is. And I'm going to use WhyteSpyder as an example because it's the more neutral example. If you go to Island and see a WhyteSpyder product, they know WhyteSpyder is. If they search for, let's say, bottle of water and they see a WhyteSpyder bottle of water, they know at least what it is. At least it is in their mind for consideration.
I love that personalized approach because I mentioned I'm not a trained marketer. I'm an analyst. Data and analytics is my forte, and that's why I feel I wouldn't say mastered, but I'm pretty good at the data behind converting more customers, right? When someone searches paper towels, my job is to get our brand's products in front of that searcher who wants to buy the category but doesn't know what brand they want to purchase yet. But to put this in a more macro sense, those are shoppers that are already down the aisle. They've already made the decision to go to Walmart and look at the paper towel category. And my job is to shift share of that pie or to get our advertisers a bigger slice of that pie. Programmatic and DSP and offsite allows us to grow the pie. And we can do that in a way, this is where the power of WhyteSpyder and Perpetua really hits home. I can't drive people to site, but Gus can. When I get them there, I know exactly how the algorithm wants to interpret that traffic and give our brands, our advertisers, the most benefit. I've got 3 rules for paying for traffic. One is that only your products get the benefit of that traffic and your competitors get completely locked out of that benefit. 2 is to convert at the highest rate, right? That's the advertising game. You lead 100 horses to water, how many of them drink? The third, and this is where we're starting to get into like a whole different ballgame here, is how do I get the most halo effect once that promotional traffic has stopped? Once I've stopped paying for ads to drive people on site, how do I still get the benefit of that incremental traffic day in and day out? And that's where WhyteSpyder strategies really, I say, set us apart from any other player in the industry, because we know that algorithm inside and out. That is my day-to-day job, is understanding how that algorithm parses information and puts product A at spot 1 and product B at spot 2. And with that innate knowledge of that algorithm, I can drive this traffic in a better, higher converting, more halo beneficial way than other advertisers who don't know those nuances. And I think that's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
And Ben, I think we're seeing that with some of our clients.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, it's not only, just what they do when they're on site, but it's how do we get more into that site? And so you kind of talk about the halo effect, and I look at it like, we're trying to make the pie bigger, similar to what you said. So Gustavo, if you could give me some specific like key takeaways and maybe isolate it to 3, what are some 3 really helpful hints for the audience to say, after you've established those goals, or maybe it's while you establish those goals that you before mentioned, understand your business, like what are those 3 major like takeaways that you'd want the audience to kind of leave with today as like just major helpful hints?
That's a good question. For me, it was like, aside from everything, like understanding things outside DSP and DSS. So let's say if you're doing everything around you, what's the impact when you remove one piece? Like make sure like you understand your media and how they're connecting each other. That is like one thing that I see a lot of people forgetting, is like they see things on a silo. Like there's no silo. See your media strategy as a whole. Second one, if you don't achieve your KPI, it doesn't mean it's an unsuccessful campaign. We may need to recalibrate, or maybe it's a long-term game. That's one thing. And 3, there is so much we can do. Like unfortunately, there is things that are outside our control, like what's happening right now in terms of inflation. So like always understand what's happening outside the digital space, because that will impact us. There is times like during COVID, like just the beginning, I had some clients that like their goal was always year-over-year increase sales. And then COVID happened, this sales just skyrocketed. Mm-hmm. That's great, but now we're out of quotation marks, out of COVID. We need to recalibrate ourselves. We should not expect the same level of performance because the times are different. So that would be my ones, like understanding external factors. Your media is everything, not just a silo. And I forgot the middle one.
I'll reemphasize that middle one because that's stuck in my head.
Awesome.
Understanding what went right and emphasizing it, but spending as much time on what didn't hit the mark and finding new and creative and analytic and strategic ways to make the bad better. I think everybody can succeed 30% of the time, but it's how you move tactics and shoppers and campaigns from underperforming to average to better, and then setting a new bar and continuous improvement. I'm really proud to say that that's something that I feel sets us apart from players in the industry. That, yeah, I'll tell you what went right, but I'll spend more time on what went wrong so that we can learn from each other you mentioned it multiple times, Gustavo, is understanding our clients' needs and not just having a cookie cutter approach. If you want a 7-course meal, I'll serve you a 7-course meal. But if you really just want an appetizer and a dessert, hey, who am I to judge? And finding the right way to deploy that with the most efficiency possible, I think is definitely a hallmark of our strategy.
And
So,
one thing,
Ryan,
sorry,
I just wanted to see if there's any questions from the audience.
Oh,
yeah.
We're kind of, going back and forth with our own internal questions of one another. But are there any questions from the audience we could probably answer?
I'm keeping an eye on it, Ben. I don't see any yet, but definitely a good prompt to get your personal questions, your specific questions in the queue now, so we have plenty of time to answer them.
Yeah. One thing I want to bring it up is just talking to your counterpart. Let's say I'm running activations right now, and I'm on Slack channel with a lot of the clients doing DSP and on-site. I may don't have to be on that 24/7, but it's always good to peek around, see what's happening. Like there's a change on grid, there's any changes, because like I can do my best job, but if you don't know what's happening with like my counterparts, I'm really doing a great job, or I'm just doing what's the great job for DSP. So like understanding people are working with, if you are like a Walmart retailer versus a D2C retailer market, please talk to each other, understand how each one play a role, understanding like if there's like, hey, we saw increasing sales on Walmart, but dropping in our own retail space. Understanding that also helps you to understand what's happening on your business.
Yeah, thanks, Gustavo. So Ryan, maybe let's talk a little bit about how Walmart specific data can be leveraged in this world of DSP.
I can definitely take a shot at that, Ben. So let me try that. But Gus, again, you're the expert here. Let me know how this translates into the real world and putting it into practice. So Walmart, it doesn't really openly share a ton of their data. And this feels like our best opportunity to create custom audiences, to target a shopper that is the target of my marketing strategy or my innovation strategy, or just, what I'm trying to drive for my business. So tell me a little bit about that. Say I am selling paper towels and I am losing market share to private label, and I want to target those lapsed users of my brand wherever they went. We can identify source of volume later, but I need to get more shoppers back into my brand. Tell me a little bit about how you might put that into practice. Does that create different publisher targets? Does that create different time of day? How does that Walmart first party data help you run the best campaigns?
That's a really, really good question. There is 2 ways I can see. In terms of like data would be one thing, Ryan, and then some other things you mentioned would be more optimization and things I would do to further increase efficiency. So let's have the data portion. I will take 2 approaches, or even 3. First one is people that has bought already, because like especially toilet paper, it's a very like recyclable product in the sense of like people just buy again because we need it. I can look into retargeting specific products I have, or that can be think of is Walmart let us target a spender quartile. Let's say if I'm selling 3 types of toilet paper, I can say, hey, I want the 50% of my top spenders, even though it's a low number, because I want to move them up. I want to bring them to 40%, 30%, 20%, 1%, 10%. Like I want to be them to be loyalists. So there's different ways you can approach. Like I could do the 3 of them. I could do 2 of them, or 1 of them, or none of them. Like some clients, it's like, that's all good, but I don't care about that. I want to just upper funnel, bring new audience in. So in terms of the other side, the day party publishers, that's something we can layer on top of the data. So let's say our client mentions between 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. if that's when people are buying their product, I can day part my campaign to only serving during those hours. Like I can remove early morning and late nights because they don't bring me revenue. So like why I want to serve and waste money there. Also, I can look at what's on the site itself. So let's say you're talking about toilet paper. if you have a pet, you may need toilet paper because they make a mess at your home. So just it's like, okay, let me put some like pet category. So whenever a site, the content is talking about pets, the ad can appear. So it would be a combination of your first party Walmart data and your trade desk settings and configurations to get what you want. It's more like a and combination of both of them instead of like or. In terms of data, there is segments that are straightforward. Let's say people that bought toilet paper or things like that. But you can start looking at segments that maybe not one-to-one, like busy families. If you're like, you know, those shoppers are not going to be thinking a lot what they're buying when they're in store. And when you may want to test those, see if they have impact. If your client knows your brand's resonates well with like outdoor people, we can target outdoor. So like understanding your brand, also that feedback gives me back, and then I can build my audience and my data in different ways.
So let me ask a very simple question, but you mentioned something there, Gus, that may not be as inherently obvious to our audience as it does to you as the expert. You're like, I want to target outdoor people. What does that mean? Does that guide you toward a certain set of publishers that you want to target? Like, how does that knowledge create an audience?
Yeah, so the data itself look at the user, not the publisher. So let's say if I'm looking for outdoor people, I'm going to give a bad example because I'm going to use myself as an example. If I'm looking for coffee, like I don't go to a lot of news. I don't go to a lot of known sites that people that may be looking for coffee. I love games. I love reading. I love those like more nerdy things. If you're trying to go to the publisher side, where let's say towards news, you're never going to reach me. But if you're going towards just the data, like, hey, I want people that love coffee, your chances to reach me have gone up, because maybe it's not the content on the site, maybe not aligned with the coffee, but the user behind the screen aligned with coffee. Saying that, if you want to do coffee, target an audience that's coffee plus only sites are talking about coffee, we can do that as well. So like it would be a combination of like what the site's talking about and my data segment.
So this is keying on something you mentioned to me once before. So hopefully I'll lead you into a good response here. But
Yeah.
you know, you seem like a pretty upbeat guy, and the news these days can sometimes be negative. And if I'm an advertiser, I'm like, I don't want my product showing up next to bad news. Are you able to hyper focus your ads to that degree?
So in terms of, that's a good thing you mentioned. That's brand safety. If you know what's happening on Twitter right now, that's a perfect example of brand safety. Clients like stay away from that. That's been happening on programmatic since I've joined the industry. Like brand safety has been and always going to be an issue in a good way. Clients that do value brand safety will usually succeed in long term because protects their brand in a way that we cannot measure, because PR can be a nightmare. So how we would do, there is certain things we would exclude by default because we don't want, just avoid headache. Like,
yeah, you don't want to be associated with that content, right?
Yeah, like in the 5-10 years, like politics has been very divisive.
Right.
We may just like, hey, that's our brand safety guidelines. If you don't want to, if you want to be on the news, political news, that's totally fine. We can keep you in, but based on our knowledge, historical feedback from past advertisers, current advertisers, and news, we recommend excluding that. Is that mandatory? No. Does Perpetua apply by default? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
And then there's always like some clients that want to have some unique exclusions. Let's say they don't want to be around like divorce, like it's like, hey, it's just too much of a sensitive topic. If I'm selling wedding rings, exclude me from those topics. We can do that. So like
that would be a mismatch for sure.
Yeah, so we can look into, we can always make sure like if there's something your brand doesn't want to be involved or can be sensitive to your brand, we take it into consideration as well.
So that's all part of that client research
Yeah.
Which is absolutely needs to be a part of the process, but that information is not valuable unless you can execute it. And it sounds like what you are trying to emphasize there is the ability to create custom campaigns and really be an extension of that brand voice for our suppliers on the internet at large. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. Like, again, if you look at the UI, they all look the same goddamn campaigns. They look very boring. But when you got the details, the media plan and everything, like, oh, that plan belongs to that client. Can I maybe borrow learnings? Maybe, but that plan worked well because it was thought about this client, their customers, and their KPIs.
So that was a lot of positives, and I'm a positive guy. Let's talk about the negatives for a moment. Let's flip it on its head and let's talk about the risks involved with not incorporating this type of strategy into your ad plan. Ben, do you see this from current clients that we're really trying to get across the goal line to ensure that this is a component? And Gus, how do you see the addition of this complementing that, kind of spinning it back positive again?
Yeah, so I mean, it certainly is, Ryan. I think, as we're engaged with not only prospective clients and current clients, just the evolution of how the media delivery is moving to market, they feel very, very confident in our ability once the consumer hits Walmart to convert that shopper. But how do they also drive those consumers back into Walmart? And so if you just focus on how they act within Walmart, yes, you're winning and you're winning pieces of the pie, but how do you make the pie bigger, which is ultimately what Walmart's trying to do. And we've seen how many new suppliers Walmart's brought on in the last few months. I mean, they are having a very intentional approach to making the pie bigger. DSP is an element of driving additional traffic into Walmart. And so completing that full scope media approach, it's absolutely critical. And you hear it a lot from our clients. It's like, okay, yes, we believe you when you're there on site that you can convert, but how else can I drive additional traffic to my items for somebody that was either warm or lukewarm to purchase before? Or maybe they've searched something along the lines of what I'm trying to sell, and I can drive that traffic into Walmart and get them to convert on my items.
So it sounds like these components of this strategy are not additive, but they multiply each other, and they build momentum with each other. And hate to borrow a cliche phrase, but 1 + 1 can equal 3 if we start adding these components together. It sounds like.
Yep, that's right.
Awesome.
And one thing, like, it's good to keep in mind. I'm gonna go back to my bottle. Just because advertising this one is not selling, does not mean this product is not leading to more sales. That's why the halo, understanding how your brand is working, is important. Because like sometimes, like, I may not like orange, like it's just not for me. So it's like, well, I don't want that, but you guys have other flavors. So like, maybe it's not the product, just me, but you still got that conversion. So like understanding that as well is important. Don't limit yourself to just what is being promoted. The halo effect to bench, like multipliers, understand everything will help you.
That causation versus correlation relationship is the hardest thing to wrap our heads around in terms of analytics. Did this happen at the same time, or did this happen because one thing led to another? And I just know that when we can guide that traffic in the right way, it does make an impact. The case study that I'm drawing from here is, we like to advertise on non-branded keywords because that's our jump ball, that's our incrementality to get more users into our brand, especially on site. And I get the question all the time, Ryan, like, not a ton of people are clicking on this ad. It has low conversion. And that was a major blocker for us. We had to figure out how to justify that, because in my heart of hearts, I know that if I'm showing my brand to more people than my competition is, I'm going to win. But that causality is tough to stitch together in data. And we were able to prove that by putting your item on non-branded keywords on site, by showing the orange bottle to somebody offsite that might not be an orange flavor fan, but now understands your brand, that causes them to come back to the retailer site, hopefully Walmart's, and type your brand name into the box. And that, I don't want to say is a shortcut or a loophole, but that is the answer to why am I paying for these things that the direct causation metrics don't feel like their one is driving the other. There's no way to prove, there's no way to track every user out there that gets an impression from whatever ad that it doesn't ultimately lead them to convert, and remind them that that's a category I want to shop in, a brand that I trust, and a flavor profile that maybe I haven't tried before, but you know what, Gus, I'm going to try your orange drink because you advertised it so well. So there's many ways to play back that ROI and to create that story. And I think that's something I know I pride myself on, is telling the story through the consumer's lens, through our advertisers' lens, and relying on more than just ROAS and click-through rate and impressions. There's a whole world of analytics out there that we can mine to tell the story a little bit better.
Yep.
All right, audience. Any questions out there? I've talked a lot. Ben's talked a lot. Gus has given us some incredible information. If anybody has any questions, let's get them in now. If not, I will pivot to the next question. Gus, what is the newest thing that you're excited about? You've been in programmatics for a while. You've seen the full run of products and techniques and strategy. What's the newest thing that's on your radar that's got you excited?
That's a good question. Honestly, I like how first-party data is being used more and more. That's something that really gets me excited, because like, aside from Walmart finally like doing a good job with like segmenting, using their data, a lot of clients have very strong data, and sometimes they just let it sit in dust. Like that first-party data it's gold. Like you cannot find that anywhere else. Like your first-party data is yours. Like it's so unique, so different. So like seeing now people, advertisers, agencies, everyone giving more emphasis on first-party data, like let's do a hygiene, like let's segment them properly, let's use that properly. It's been very exciting for me. I do like how, especially in US, you guys are way more advanced than Canada for some stuff. The streaming TV, like digital TV, how it's growing, how it's evolving, how it's being able to be tracked in a very efficient way. It's interesting. I know there's some gaps that need to be addressed, but like just seeing how TV that for so long as that, like you put the money in, after 10 weeks, you may get some money back.
Yep.
So it's like, I love seeing how like we are measuring things that we couldn't before.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's scaring me a little bit because some advertisers are hyper focused on the metrics. Like it is good to measure, but again, some things we cannot measure, and that doesn't devalue the product. Like TV, just because I couldn't measure TV doesn't mean it was not effective. So that's what like excites me, like first-party data, measurement, and the tools of being like, the tools are no longer as black box as they used to.
Got to tell the story, and now we have more avenues to do that. Gus, I've got one last question. Well, just the Q&A just popped up. Let's make sure we address that if we get one before we close here. I've got one last goofy question to ask you. Is that a bronze lobster claw behind you?
Oh, that's Perpetua. I think they do a prize whenever someone wins. I've never won, but that's a crab claw. Yes.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
And so we have a question from the audience. You mentioned long-term success for a campaign. How would you measure long-term success outside of ROAS? And what other KPIs would you use? And what time period would you use?
Oh,
this is a really good question.
Really good question. That to define long-time success, we get into like lifetime customer, like how much they bring in. That's a thing that's like, I would need to pass my data to Ryan, and then Ryan got his data. Or if you talk like clients that do like 360 planning or 360 buys, there is something called mixed marketing model, where they get all the impression, all the data, and they do analysis. That's how you see long-term. You get our media, and it's like basically playing with your own data to see what the outcome would be. That would be one. And when you ask about long-term, that's a really good question. I would say like, if you talk like long-term, probably over a year, because like you want to get like that massive. But I know that's not realistic. Like over a year, sometimes like it's just too much. Also like give at least half a year to understand what's happening. Because like seasonality, like summer, winter, that's going to impact. If you're talking about beers, winter maybe is not as a strong selling point compared to summer. If you talk about winter coats, your summer is going to be that. So like understand your product and give a time frame where you would feel comfortable. If it's like high and low season, okay, let's do a high and low season. Let's optimize as needed to get those ROAS, those CPAs. But after 6 months, let's get all that data into our tool and see what happens. But it's like at least passing one high point and one low point would be ideal, because you want to see the full picture. Because like there are things I can control, or I can control, but it's like users are customers, the things they cannot control. So giving like a good in-depth time and like in-depth like data collection would be ideal.
Gus, you mentioned something earlier in regards to the goal being to make people loyalists, like getting them to buy your product and over without having to advertise to them. And I think what DSP is doing is creating that brand loyalty, making that almost emotional connection between the user, the shopper, the consumer, and the brand. From my perspective, the long-term success is defined by not being as reliant or not being reliant at all on media investment. At an item level. No, I'm not saying to achieve your goals, take your ball and go home. But what I am saying is that you launch a new product, the goal is awareness, and then the goal is conversion, and then the goal is a certain sales velocity. On site, the goal is to get organically to the top of that search grid. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is to have this influx of external traffic to allow us to let the algorithm know that this is the most popular, the most relevant product to serve in that non-branded keyword. So long-term success for me is that this single item can now stand on its own and contribute high levels of contribution, margin, profit, sales, all that good stuff to your portfolio, so that you can take that promotional fund and reinvest it into the next piece of your portfolio. Your brand is only as strong as its weakest link. And my job is to make sure that your naturally popular items are available and bought all the time. But then I'm quickly turning my attention to the torso and tail of your portfolio to make sure that we're essentially walking your portfolio, your brand up the search ranks. And maybe one day we'll have it so well optimized that you don't need $1 of advertising. But I'd love to see that day selfishly, but I think there's always opportunity to invest for incrementality, and that's what this flywheel is set up to do, is to get that momentum going, and then kind of let the item carry its own weight as we go.
Well, I hope that answered the question. I wanted to thank the audience for attending and investing an hour with us from our standpoint. Ryan, Gustavo, Brooke, thanks for being panelists with me. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully the audience, you guys came away with a few key nuggets, and certainly if there's anything we can do to answer offline, we're happy to do so. But thank you again for your time, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.